I would like to start by thanking the organizers for allowing me to come to this beautiful country of Greece. It's my first time here. And I would also like to thank the 2 Brazilian granting agencies that allow me to come here. So I'll be talking about long-term effects of trauma victimization in school. But before we do that, let me tell you a little bit about where I come from. I work at this university. It's the Federal University of São Carlos, Brazil. And this is the map of Brazil. You have an arrow right in the state of São Paulo, inland, where São Carlos is located. I coordinate LAPREV, which is the Laboratory for Violence Analysis and Prevention. We've been working since 1998. We do research, education, consultation, and intervention with women. We started with women who were victims of violence, children who are maltreated, and we also work with men, the small segment of men who, not small, but we don't work with any type of men, but mostly men who batter their women. And this is our website, so you can find out about our publications. And we work with only 2 kinds of violence, family violence and school violence. And today I'll be speaking about school violence. We do very hard work, and sometimes we get recognition. And one of them was an award we got in the year 2009 from PAHO, which is the Pan American World Health Organization, for best practices which incorporate a gender and equality ethnic perspective among men and women in the area of health. So the school, when marked by violence, is a place of risk for children's development. The goal of this pilot, I'm going to be presenting 2 pilot studies to investigate the long-term consequences of school victimization, especially post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. And we will be using an instrument which was developed in the United States by Professor Hyman, who was from University of Florida, and he developed the Student Alienation and Trauma Survey. And we were originally contacted about 10 years ago to do a cross-cultural study involving Brazil and many other countries, and then we never heard from Professor Hyman again. And after a few months, we found out that he had passed away. So in a way, it's nice to be continuing with his line of work, although our work is not cross-cultural. So our first pilot, of course, we translated his instrument to Portuguese. We did the retro translation. We sent it to judges. And then we tested with a random of 81 undergraduate students. Because the question here is, did you experience, what was, first of all, the instrument asked, which was your worst experience in school? And there's a detailed description. Then the instrument asks, in a very detailed way, what kind of symptoms did you have in the short term and in the long term associated? And finally, the instrument has a blank session which you could write and describe and talk about whatever you wanted. And I'll be showing some qualitative data. So our first pilot group was 76% female students from the university, and 38% filled criteria for PTSD. And then right away we thought, this is not possible. There's got to be something wrong with the instrument. We cannot have that prevalence of PTSD. So then we readjusted the instrument. It is very long. We didn't make it shorter, but we made it more interesting, more attractive, and the Portuguese was tighter so that the students wouldn't get tired. And then we tested with 46 students. In average, they were 22 years of age, and we have 50-50 in terms of sex ratio. So the purpose of this instrument is to assess the youngsters' reports of their most stressful experience and their thoughts, behaviors, and feelings associated with these bad experiences in school. The instrument was developed to address the need for a self-report of PTSD measure that conforms with standard diagnostic criteria for PTSD, as well as providing detailed coverage of the kinds of symptoms in response to traumatic events in school. So in terms of results from the second pilot study, the most frequent item that was speak is 41% of the students said that they were teased in school. And this pretty much confirms the data on bullying that we have. I'm not going to be talking about bullying. This study is school violence in general, so it involves aggression. That's not bullying. It involves also teacher violence to students. But then the next one, I was embarrassed. I was picked last. Other students stopped talking to me. Someone lied about me and I got in trouble. No one helped me when I asked for help. Someone made fun of my clothes. Someone got others to not like me. And I wanted to be friends with someone who did not want to be friends with me. Now, the person involved in the worst experience, most of them were students, and then teachers, then students and teachers, then teachers' aides, coach, and then more than one categories. The offender sex, most of them were male, and this reinforces the literature, followed by female, and then followed by both. The participants' age, the most frequent age found was between 11 to 14, very little under 4. And the place that the experience had occurred, 72% were in public schools in Brazil as opposed to private schools. Now the reaction after the experience, 74% of the students said that it upset me a lot, 24% it upset me a little, and then only 2% it didn't really bother me. And then in terms of PTSD scores, with this instrument we found 11% filling criteria of clinically distress significant with PTSD. However, the 26%, which is above average, is also concerning, and it's also associated with mental health problems. So the more frequent symptoms they have, hypervigilance, avoidance and numbing, general maladjustment, 17%, hopelessness, dissociation, and dreams, 15% of them reported that, re-experience of the trauma, increased arousal, depression, oppositional conduct, and somatic symptoms. And now for some qualitative data in terms of long-term effects, I was always teased by being called ugly, stupid, and things like that. At the time, I got very upset, but then it went away soon. But this impacted my entire life up to today. Because of this, I have low self-esteem, and I always see myself as incapable of doing things. This was a female. Now, homophobia is, by the way, the one aspect that children complain about being bullied most in Brazil. And the students wrote, in grade 5, I looked feminine. It was a difficult period in the classroom. They made fun of me all the time. They talked behind my back. In addition, some of the boys called me names and pressed me against the wall in a sexual position, but they did not take my clothes off. I avoided, I yelled, but they couldn't care less. I never had the courage to tell anyone, and I have suffered since then from depression, which lasted many years. Now, in terms of teachers' aggression, the teacher hit me physically, slapping my face and yelling. Another one, the students pee their pants, so afraid they were of the teacher, who yelled and humiliated. This happens in from grades 5 to 8. And I think you can't see in the back, but it says humiliated a lot, very frequently, or something like that. Now, they made reports to guns in school, which is extremely concerning. A guy came to fight with me, and in the middle of the discussion, he pulled a gun out of his backpack right in the middle of the school hallway. Another report, I just froze and only managed to relax after the discussion was over, and the director, which is the principal here, was able to remove the gun from the student who was making threats. So in conclusion, the data should be interpreted very much with caution because these are pilot studies. We have a very small N, but I think now we're ready for the final review, and then we'll be using it with a very large sample of students. The pilot studies, though, calls attention to the long and term effects of school victimization, which is not surprising when we look at the school shooters, but surprisingly, we don't have much solid data on how frequent is this in the population. So there is obviously a very strong need to prevent school violence, as it is very detrimental and may cause severe and frequent mental health problems. So here is just have some references that if you're interested, you can write me and my contact. Thank you very much.